Yeah, so there's an August Wilson play. August Wilson, the great African American playwright, has been made into a movie starring Viola Davis and Denzel Washington. It's called Fences, and there's a scene where the son, his father is a very stern, harsh man, and the son is just he just wants a hug from his dad. Man, Pops is always preaching at him, always giving him a hard time, trying to make a man out of him. And the boy, comes up to his father and he says, "Dad, do you like me?" And the father says, "Like you?" He says, "Let me ask you something, son." And I paraphrase. He says, "When you wake up every morning, do you have clothes to wear to school?" The son said, "Yes." "When you come downstairs and you sit at this table, do you have a hot meal ready to eat?" The son says, "Yes." "When you come back home and you get ready to go to sleep, do you have a bed that you can lay in?" Son said, "Yes." "Do you feel safe being at home, knowing that nobody's going to come in this house and do anything to you?" The son says, "Yes." The father says, "Why do you think that is?" The son thinks about the point that his father's making, and he guesses the answer: "Because you like me." And the father laughs to himself, says, "It's not because I like you, it's because I'm a man. And as a man, when I say I'm going to do something, I do what I say. I handle my responsibilities. And because you're my son, I honor my commitment to do right by you." And that's what you better worry about in this world. Instead of running around worrying about who likes you and who doesn't like you, the question you ought to ask yourself is, who's doing right by you? Because there are a lot of people out there that don't like you, but they'll do right by you. And there are a lot of people out there who like you and say all the right things, and they won't do right by you. For me, as a voluntarist, doing right by me is respecting my individual rights, point blank, period. It doesn't mean that if you don't want to date me, you have to date me. Doesn't mean that if you don't want to be my friend, you got to be my friend. Doesn't mean you smile at me when I smile at you. That's all nice, but you don't owe me any of that. You don't owe it to hang out with me. But it means honoring my individual rights. And by making everything about who likes who, because I see the left and the right, especially at a time like this, they're kind of involved in this shouting match with each other, where it's like, "You're the real bigot." No, you're the real bigot. You're the real racist. You're the one that's really racist. And they're having that conversation with themselves. And black people are kind of like a plot device, that's useful for that conversation to different groups in different ways. But it's like, it doesn't matter who likes who and who doesn't. And by making everything about intentions rather than outcomes, we've created this market where one group gets to feel really good about themselves for being anti-racist in rhetoric while endorsing policies that actually have negative externalities that are crushing Black people, right? And then, another group, even if there are real instances of people being oppressed systemically through the power of this monopoly on violence that is the state, they don't acknowledge it because they don't have any racist intentions. They don't fight against it because they don't have any racist intentions. I use the phrase system of oppression, and I actually had a conservative tell me, "You sound like a liberal." I said, "I'm sorry. Can you think of any better phrase for the monopoly of violence that is the state than system of oppression? Because that is what this is. It's a system of oppression." And so you've got some people who, because they don't have any racist intentions, they can't see any instances of this violent mechanism coming down on people and violating their individual rights. And then other people can see it, and they act like it's enough to say the right things, and while endorsing policies and practices that hurt the people they claim to help even more. It's like that movie Get Out. Spoiler alert, just fast forward 2 minutes if you haven't seen the movie yet. But there's a moment where you have a Black guy who's dating a white woman, and they're driving home to see her parents. And there's a white cop who pulls them over, and the way the cop treats them, the way he treats the white woman versus the Black male, it's clear that the cop is kind of like the racist character in the movie. It's clear that he's the guy that's racist. But it turns out that the cop doesn't do them any harm, right? He's kind of a jerk, but he doesn't do them any harm. The guy goes home, he meets the girl's family, and her family, they're all, you know, like they're all just like super pro-black. They got respect for black people. The father's like, if I could, I'd vote for Obama a third time. And they just love black folks, right? And the funny thing is, the funny thing is that in the end, again, spoiler alert, the people that are the most dangerous are the ones that claim to be pro-black. It's the people that love black people, you know. So you got to be careful with those intentions, and you gotta make this conversation about, you know, what's happening in our world about outcomes, because that you know, if you make it about intentions, it lets everybody off the hook. But if you make it about outcomes, it holds everybody accountable to the principles of freedom that we care so much about. And there's a way to do that without pretending like these harsh realities aren't real.
So what you're saying is, what I'm hearing you say is that you don't think that we accomplished anything by getting Aunt Jemima off of the syrup bottle and the and we put we painted the streets. I mean, that's not good enough.
Well, actually, funny enough, I think that's kind of an interesting topic in a different way.
Yeah.
So, contrary to what many of my fellow capitalists seem to believe, I actually believe that capitalism is nothing more than a giant profit-based virtue signaling system. In other words, when you go to a bar or a restaurant, I don't believe that your bartender or barista is serving you and treating you so nicely because they actually like you. I think what they are giving you is economically incentivized respect. Love is what you get from your mom. Love is what you get from your dad. Hopefully, if you got good parents who care about you. Love is what you get from your spouse or your friends. Economically incentivized respect is what you get from the market. Market doesn't give you love. And the key, however, is that virtue signaling is like acting. You know, a good actor is someone that makes you forget that they're acting. A good actor is someone who can play a villain and they have you really angry at them because you forgot that this is actually just Leonardo DiCaprio you're watching. He doesn't really want to kill anybody. It's just an actor playing a role. A good actor makes you forget all of that and makes you think you're really watching a mean villain, you know? But if you can tell that someone's acting, you don't enjoy the movie anymore. You don't believe it. You don't buy in. In a similar way, businesses are constantly in competition with one another to signal to their customers, we care about you. We care about you. Businesses are always doing that. There is no time where a business is not doing that. All of a business's decisions are oriented around signaling to their customers, we care about you, in a way that their customers will actually buy. And if it comes off as disingenuous, it won't work, and the customers will call their bluff. So you got to do it really well. And that's exceptionally difficult to do. Anybody that's tried to run a business, tried to start a business, understands that. So what I'm seeing right now, as much as everybody's debating this and they see it as a culture war, I actually see a move like what you pointed out as a win for capitalism, even though the capitalists are the ones that are crying about this the most, because the capitalists look at this as like, oh, it's a loss at the hands of political correctness and so forth. I actually think it's a win for capitalism, and here's why. The number one objection that people make to free markets, if you've ever had a conversation with people about the power of free markets, what they will do is they will present to you some kind of scenario where there's the poor old lady who can't pay her bills. There's the person who can't get a job because everybody's a bigot. Here's somebody that's just trying to live a happy life and the free market doesn't look out for them. Therefore, we need some kind of policy that's going to add just a little bit, enough of coercion to kind of make people do the right thing. And the free market advocate is always in the difficult position of trying to show that the free market system is capable of coordinating things in a much better way than central planning. And it is the best tool for resolving conflicts with people. And I think what we're witnessing is an example of the free market at work trying to sort it out. So you have a bunch of businesses that are super afraid of looking racist. This is an interesting position, right? Because make no mistake about it, these businesses are concerned about their bottom line. That's what they care about. They care about their own self-interest, okay? This is not like some Christ-like, Buddha-like compassion that they're all of a sudden expressing. No, they care about their money. And they know that the perception of being racist is not very good for business. The perception of being anti-racist is good for business. So they're desperately bending over backwards out of fear to try to signal to Black people, we're not racist. Please don't look at us as racist. Okay, we'll listen to the argument that you made 10 years ago when we told you that you were the real racist, when you guys complained about Aunt Jemima. We'll take it off the shelf now. What, you don't want to see the Confederate flag? Okay. Anything other than saying racist. So we'll take that down. It doesn't mean that they're making the right decision, but it means that the market is doing exactly what markets do. The market is testing the limits of what the right balance is between making the customers you're afraid of losing feel comfortable doing business with you and not ticking off the customers you already had too much to where you lose them too. And the market is doing 10 times of a better job than any central planning could do. Like, check this out as an example, and I'll shut up. Think about the Starbucks incident that happened maybe I think it might have been 2-3 years ago. You had these 2 Black guys, might have been longer, I don't know. You had those 2 Black guys who go into Starbucks, and I think they were maybe they were waiting on each other, whatever it was, there was some kind of misunderstanding. And the police were called, right? And there was an incident, a non-violent incident, where these guys complained, they were upset about it. And there was this big debate about it being, was this a racist thing, whatever. There are a few predictable things that happen. First, the country did what it always does when there's a debate about race. It split right down the middle, with some people saying this was about race and some people saying, no, the fact that you're making it about race is really the problem in this country. That's predictable. That's always going to happen when somebody says that racism exists. Whether it's really about race or not, that will always happen. That's totally predictable. The second thing that happened is the agents of the state did what agents of the state do. They did exactly what they're incentivized to do. They said, well, we'll do an internal investigation. And then after doing an internal investigation, they say, hey, look, they defend themselves. They say, our guys handle things in the right way. This was not our fault. There were no negative intentions at all. Our guys took the call and they did their job. They followed the protocol. It's unfortunate that things happen this way, but we didn't do anything wrong. And there was no malintent. And as an entrepreneur, I laugh to myself and I go, I wish I had the luxury of talking to my customers like that when they're unsatisfied. I wish I had the luxury of ever staying in business by treating my customers like that. Starbucks does the entrepreneurial thing. Starbucks provides you with an illustration of how free markets work. And this too was predictable. Starbucks says, it's not like we really love them or anything, but our money is very important. It's not the benevolence of the butcher or the baker, right? It's our self-interest. And Starbucks says, the CEO, I got to get on top of this. Hey, we're shutting down hundreds of Starbucks locations, and we're going to have little workshops about diversity and how to treat all human beings as equal. Black people, our coffee is for everybody. And I want to come down really hard on this and say that we're going to figure it out. We're going to get it right. And we're going to do our best to make sure that anybody who comes into Starbucks, no matter what their color is, that they feel like a dignified human being. That's how you talk to your customers when you're economically incentivized to respect them and they have the ability to go take their money to your competitor if they don't like the way you treated them. When you are an entrepreneur, you don't have the luxury of debating your customers about the existence of the problem. When your customer comes into your restaurant and say, I didn't like my food, you don't get to do like the government and say, well, you don't understand good food. I stand by my meal. Yeah, try doing that and staying in business. The government doesn't need to do that because they're going to get your money anyway. You're going to be their customer no matter what. You can't opt out of that, right? You don't have an opt-out option, but entrepreneurs are different. And so what we're seeing is the free market demonstrate how hard businesses are willing to work to make you feel loved and respected, even when they don't love you and respect you because of the self-interest that they have, because they're economically incentivized to do it. And if people say, yeah, but it's a bad decision, by taking down the Confederate flag, You're going to lose all the white people, and there aren't enough black people who care about NASCAR. My answer to that is, well, first of all, maybe you're right. I don't care if you're right or not. Maybe you're right, but the market will handle it. Unlike central planning decisions that are made, if you're correct, NASCAR is going to lose business. They're going to see that this is an unprofitable move because either it's profitable or not, either they can sustain it or not, and they're going to have to react to that. And they're going to have to keep tweaking it until they figure it out and get it right. And that's what businesses have always done. And I think we're witnessing in real time capitalism demonstrating its problem-solving abilities. And it's actually kind of funny to me that my fellow capitalists aren't seeing this as a victory at all. They're seeing it as a loss. And I would say, man, if you're in the middle of a war, you might want to at least learn how to recognize when you're scoring points. You don't have to believe that you've won, but it might help you out to realize when you've actually scored a freaking point.
I don't think there's ever been like a better illustration of our ideas and how necessary they are and how they're the only ones that will work in the long term, like 2020.